Hi everybody, Danny here. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to play Clans of Caledonia. In our last video, Andrea and I gave you our thoughts on Clans of Caledonia, gave you a bit of a review of it, what we liked, what we didn't like, so if you haven't seen that video, go and watch that as well. But today we're going to teach you how to play. It's a game by Juma Al-Juju. We backed it on Kickstarter and just got it a few weeks ago, so it's just brand new out. I'm not sure when it's going to be available in retail. Great game. It is an area control game at its core, very similar to Terra Mystica, if you've played that, but it's definitely distinct enough from Terra Mystica that it's worth a buy. Even if you have Terra Mystica, I definitely recommend it. It's based in Scotland, and you're playing as various clans, and Juma did his homework on this. They're based on historical clans in Scotland, so that's pretty cool, and you're competing to bring your clan the most glory. So let's dive right in. Alright, first thing you need to do to play Clans of Caledonia, of course, is to set the game up. I've got it set up for a 2-player game here, but it is playable with anywhere from 1 to 4 players. So, first thing you need to do is set up the player boards here. And so you'll see this is the player mat. It's got the different pieces that you can put out on the map. There's sheep, cows, cheese factories, bread factories, wheat fields, whiskey distilleries. Then you've got your foresters and your miners. Here you've got the track for shipping, and you've got your merchants, and then down here are your upgrades for your forest, your woodcutters and your miners. Here you've got the export mat, and you've got the 2 extra workers that you start with. These workers over here are merchants here, are ones that you'll have to unlock later on, but you start with 2 merchants. Alright, and you do the same with the other board. You've got the map out in the middle, and it is 4 different pieces, so you put them together, and each piece has a flip side. So it is a modular map that has 16 different configurations, so you just randomly flip them and put them together, and you'll see in the middle there those rocks with letters on them. That's how you know where to put them together. Alright, you put the market board over on the side here, and you start with these little clear markers on the numbers that are circled in the middle. And over here is the scoring board. It has these are where you put the export contracts. This is for counting glory and for counting the imported goods. Down here, this is where you keep track of who's going to be passing first and going first the next round. You'll see this is also the side for 2 players. So along the side here you bring out these. They are the end of round scoring tiles. They're shield shaped, and there are a bunch more of them. So you just put them out at random out there. And each one has a different condition where you can get glory at the end of each round. Alright, you set the 3 different imported goods up here. This one is for tobacco. This one is cotton. And this one is sugarcane. Alright. In addition, there's also hops, but hops is just worth 1 point each at the end of the game, so you don't need to track it on there. These 3 we'll talk more about them in a little bit. Alright, you also place glory markers up here. That's to keep track of your glory, and settlement markers to keep track of how many settlements you have. You put the different goods up at the top. You've got the whiskey. I really like these barrels. See how cool they are. Alright, you've got the whiskey, you've got the wheat, bread, cheese, milk, and the wool. And I put them in the same order that they appear on the maps here. That's just, kind of my OCD thing here. But one last thing, once you have the map all set up there with the 4 different pieces of the map all put together, one last thing you need to do is you need to put the port tiles out here. You'll notice there are 4 of them around the edge, and there are a variety of them in the game. You'll just select 4 at random that you'll play with that game. Is what they look like on the flip side. You'll draw 4 of them and place them down here. Now you see the symbol. This is for a 2-player game. If we were playing with 3 or more, it would go down here in that spot. So since this is a 2-player game, we set it there. Each one is a one-time use bonus that players can use, and they have these little markers here to show when they do it. So when blue player uses this port tile, they would cover it up showing that they've already used it. They can't use that one again, but other players can. And this one, just to give an example, you can move the price of a good up or down by 3 steps. and you could do that at any point. So if you're about to sell a good, you could raise the price of it by 3 steps before you sell it. So you can see how that could come in handy. And you have to be next to it to use it. So you'd have to build down here onto this tile and be right next to it to be able to use it. All right, you also bring out a number of clans equal to the number of players playing plus 1. So since we have this set up for a 2-player game, you'll see I have 3 clans out here: Clan Stewart, Clan Cunningham, and Clan Mackenzie to choose from. Each one also is assigned a random tile that shows what goods they start with. So the default is 55 pounds and then also some goods. So this one starts with whiskey and 2 milk. We got wheat, a bread, a milk, and this one starts with an extra 5 pounds, so a total of 60 pounds, and a wool and a bread. Alright, so then we would choose which clans we're going to play as, and the person who chooses first on clans is going to go last. So whoever goes first chooses second, and vice versa. Alright, so we would choose those, and then we have everything else out here and ready to go. Alright, once you've got everything set up, then you do your starting moves. Just to get everything set up here, you would pick your clans. So in this case, we've had the blue player select Clan Stewart. We've had the red player select Clan Cunningham. We've taken what they've started with, including their money to start with, and then they've placed their starting workers. So you each get to start with 2 workers, and they come in 2 varieties. You have the woodcutters, which cost a little bit less and make a little bit less for you. And you've got the miners, who cost a little bit more, but make a little bit more, of course. So there's that trade-off. The miners can only go on mountain spaces. So you see the red has gone with miners and has put them on mountain spaces. The woodcutters can only go on forest areas. So you see that the 2 blue players are on areas with forest on them. And you'll see some of the hexes have a bit of some and some of another. So some hexes have a little bit of forest as well as some field. Some hexes have all 3, like that one right there. It's got some forest, some mountain, and some field, so anything could go on that hex. All the other pieces here can only go on a field, but those 2 have to go on, the miners have to go on mountain, and the woodcutters have to go on forest. Okay, so now that they've got those out, they are ready to start the game. The game is played in 5 rounds, okay, represented by those 5 shields over there. In each one of these rounds, you're going to go through a couple different phases. Alright, so the first phase you're going to go through is basically the setup, prepare for the round. On the first round, you don't need to worry about that. We already have the export contracts out there. We don't have any merchants up at the market. We would take them back if we did. So basically, we can go straight into the actions phase. And this nifty scorecard that it comes with, this little cheat sheet, shows you all the actions you can do. We'll just go through them one by one here, okay? So the first action you can do is trade, okay? Like I said earlier, you start with 2 merchants here. You can send your merchants to the market to trade. This market is a really cool part of the game. Down here on this side, you see the sale side. Up there, you've got the buy side. Each merchant can buy or sell 1 good. So you can send them to the market, and when you take this action, you have to do 1 type of good. So we'll say we'll send both of them to buy whiskey. Alright, because we want whiskey. Whiskey's great. Alright, now when you go to the market to buy whiskey, this is the current price where this marker is. So right now the cost of whiskey is 11. So since you sent 2 merchants to buy whiskey, you'd pay 22 for 2 whiskey. Grab those 2 whiskey from over here and add them to your supply, and then you modify the price. Since we bought 2 units, it's going to go up in price by 2. So next time someone goes there, the price is 13. Okay, one additional rule is you cannot buy and sell the same good on the same turn. So if I had an extra merchant available now, I could not go on the same turn and sell whiskey. I already bought it this turn, I can't sell it. But I could get additional merchants and send them to sell other goods or buy other goods. That's the first action. Second action is obtain 1 export contract. So you have over here, each clan has space for 1 export contract. There actually is 1 clan that can take 2 export contracts at once. That's their special ability, but most just take 1. So over here is the supply of available contracts. So you would just choose 1, and add it to your board. That's now your contract. Now in the first round of the game, you get paid £5 to take an export contract, and the price goes up from there. In the second round, you don't pay anything. In the third round, you pay £5, then £10 in the fourth round, then £15 in the fifth round. So you're encouraged to get contracts early on. If you can get a contract and fulfill it, then you can go and grab another one in the same round. So since I grabbed that contract in the first round, I would grab £5 as well, because it's happening in the first round. Okay, that's the next action you can do. Okay, the third action you can do in Clans of Caledonia is expand. You have the various pieces here on your board, and just like we did in the initial phase of the game, we put 2 of our miners out there. You do the same thing. You have to pay the price that's up at the top, and then you have to also pay the price that's on the board for that piece. So say red player is going to put out a sheep. Okay, they want to put a sheep out. They have to put it in a field somewhere, and it has to be connected to where they already have players, or if they have shipping, then they can go far away. But right now they don't have any shipping. You can see here on the shipping track they have nothing. So you'd have to put it right next to where you already are. Right here is a cheap spot, so they'll put it right there. You would pay £8 for the sheep, and you'd pay £1 for that hex. So a total of £9, and now you have a sheep out. The sheep produces wool. You can also slaughter the sheep to get mutton for export contracts. Now, a couple rules with expand. First off, if you expand right next to another player's good, so say blue came along and expanded right in there, right here with a wheat field. If you expand right next to another player's piece, you have a neighboring bonus you can take immediately. It's only a one-time thing, so it's not an ongoing deal, but because you build right next to the sheep, you can go to the market immediately, and you can buy that good that produces. So sheep produce wool. You could go to the market and buy wool, and the bonus is you get it for a discount. So the basic goods, the wool, the wheat, and the milk, you get for a discount of £2 each. So right now you could go and buy the wool for two each, and the processed goods you get a discount of £3 on each one of those. Okay, so if you built next to a distillery, a whiskey distillery, you could go and buy whiskey for -3. You're limited to doing that 3 times. You can only buy 3 of them, and you do have to use merchants to do so. So right now blue is out of merchants. They wouldn't be able to do it this round, but if you had extra merchants, you could send them there and you'd get that neighboring bonus. The other thing that might come up is with the processed plants, the cheese factories, the bread factories, and the distilleries for whiskey. When you build all 4, if you build the 4th one, you get a bonus that's listed down here. Immediately you can go and grab 3 contracts from just the supply, not from the board, but from the supply. You can look at those contracts, you can choose one of them. You still have to pay the price, the normal price for that round, but you get that contract, so it just gives you a little more variety. And of course you have to have space. If it's already full, then you wouldn't be able to take that bonus. Okay, so those are the 2 bonuses that could happen with expand. Okay, the next couple actions have to do with the board. Another action you can do is you can upgrade your shipping. So you pay 4 coins. It's represented right there. It's really tiny, but you pay 4 coins to upgrade your shipping. So you can upgrade it right up to there. At that point, you can go across rivers. You can pay another 4, and you can go across lock spaces. So you'd be able to go across 1 lock space, such as if you were here, you could build over here, skip this 1 lock space. You can upgrade it all the way up to 4. So you could skip over 4 different lock spaces. If you're here, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, and build all the way up here. So shipping can be a big deal, a great way to expand across the board. The other thing you can pay for is pay £4, again, same, to get another merchant. So you start with 2, you can get another one, you can get all the way up to 7 merchants in your supply to go to the market. If you're going there a lot, you'll want to get some more merchants out. Each one of those is just 4. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can pay £10 to upgrade your technology. So for the woodworkers, normally they earn you £4 each of income, but you can upgrade them so that they give you £6 each. That costs £10. You can do that as well for the miners. Normally they give you 6 each. You can upgrade them so they give you £8 each of income. Alright. the another action you can do is you can fulfill your export contract. Okay, so this export contract for Clan Steward right now, on the left side it shows what's required to fulfill it. You need 1 wool and 4 whiskey. On the right is what you get. So it'll have these goods. So this is one of them. This is the sugar cane. So you get 4 sugar cane, and that is represented up here. You'll move it by 4. You'll move the sugar cane 4 steps along here. And when anybody does that, it pushes these along. So you'll just track how much you personally have done by keeping these contracts, but you'll keep track of how much of that good has been imported overall on that map. Alright, there's also coins on this one that you'll get, 15 pounds, and then you also get hops. That's not represented on the board because they're just worth 1 point each at the end of the game, so you don't need to worry about that. Alright, there are some other things that can happen on the import, on the contracts, the export contracts. This symbol right here shows that you can get a free space, so you can expand immediately, and you won't have to pay anything for the hex. You still have to pay the price of whatever you decide to expand with, but you don't have to pay the price of the hex itself, and you get to do that immediately. It doesn't take an extra action. Another thing that comes up on these export contracts, you'll see here there's meat required for this one. In that case, you would have to kill a cow. That's beef, and it actually takes 3 of them, so this one's pretty pricey. You'd have to have 3 cows out there, and you have to slaughter 3 of them, take them off the board and back onto your personal board to fulfill this contract. There is also another symbol on some of the contracts. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Let's see. And I can't find one when I need one. Here it is. So, there's another symbol on these contracts. That symbol is an upgrade. So you can get a free upgrade. Basically, you can take a merchant out for free, you can increase your shipping for free, or you can get a discount on this upgrade. Normally this costs 10 pounds, but to upgrade this with this action, you would only need to do it 5 pounds to do it. So you get a half off if you fulfill that export contract. Export contracts are very important. And they give you a lot of points. Now the way this works at the end of the game, this is a really cool trade-off here. There are 3 different import goods that you keep track of, besides the hops, of course. Remember, there's the cotton, the sugarcane, and the tobacco. At the end of the game, the one that has been imported the most, so if you have, say at the end of the game you have this configuration, you've had, between the 2 players, you've had 4 tobacco imported, 7 cotton, and 9 sugarcane. At the end of the game, the one that's been imported the most is worth the least. It'll only be worth 3 points each. The next one will be worth 4 points each, and the rarest one, the one that's been imported the least, will be worth 5 points each. So you have an incentive to import a lot of things because they're worth a lot of points, but you want to import the one that's been imported the least, if that makes sense. So that'll give you the most points. Alright? Those are all the actions that you can do. I mean, the last action you can do is pass. Once you're all done, you have no more money, you can't do any more actions, you'll pass. And then that ends the action round once all the players have passed for the round. Then you go into the production phase. Whatever you have out on the board produces. Alright, that includes your income, so you count up everything that's out on the board and you take your income. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is these cheese factories, the bread factories, the distilleries, they cannot produce on their own. They need the basic goods to produce. So if you have a cow out on the board, cows produce cheese. Or not cheese, milk. Cows produce milk. You have it out there, it'll produce 1 milk for you. If you also have a cheese factory out there right next to it, that can produce cheese, but it can only produce cheese if you have milk. So there are 2 different ways you can do this. If you have a cow out there and you also have the cheese factory, you can just skip getting the milk and you can just turn it straight into cheese. So this combination would just give you 1 cheese. It wouldn't give you a milk and a cheese. It'd give you a milk and you immediately turn it into a cheese. You don't need the cow though. Instead, if you didn't have a cow out there on the board and you still wanted to get cheese and you have a cheese factory, you could go to the market. During the round, you could have sent someone to the market to buy milk. And if you sent someone there and you bought milk earlier in the round, you have milk ready. Then during the production phase, you have a cheese factory, you turn in the milk, and you get a cheese in return. You turned that milk into cheese. Alright? It goes the same with the bread, and the whiskey. You have to have wheat in order to make those. You could buy it at the market, or you could produce it yourself, but you need to have those. You can't just have a distillery out there and produce whiskey from nothing. Okay, so you take all the income you need during this, or all the production that you have out on the board, you take that during this round, and then you go to scoring. So you'd look at the bonus for that round. For the first round here, this symbol shows that you get 1 glory for each basic good you have in your supply. So at the end of that round, and you get to do the production first, you produce and then you take these victory points. You'll show that with these markers here. Alright, so say I got 5 glory from this point. I have 5 different basic goods. I would move that marker to 5, and let's say blue only had 3. Alright, and then you flip this over. You're done with that round. Alright, and then you start over again. So at the start of the next round, you prepare by replacing any empty spots here on the import board or export board. Place the contract there to replace that. You bring back your merchants from the market. Alright, and then you are ready to go. Alright, so we come to the end of the game after you got through all 5 rounds. Then you will score up your final score, and you'll do the score for that final round there, and then you score up the final tally. Now this sheet here summarizes pretty well the different things you'll score up. So first thing is your glory that you've accumulated through the end of round bonuses. That's just a 1 for 1, so 1 glory is 1 victory point. You'll add up the goods that you have in hand at the end of the game, and remember that the last thing you do after your last actions is you produce one last time. Don't forget that. So basic goods are just 1 point each. Your processed goods are 2 points each. Then you get 1 point for every 10 coins in your hand, 1 point for every hops that you've imported, and you'll add up the different things that you've imported from the various export contracts there. Then the 3 other goods that you can import, and again, as we talked about earlier, you get 5 points for the rarest one, you get 4 points for the next one, and 3 points per most common good. Then the 2 last things. First, the player with the most export contracts throughout the game will get a bonus, and it's different whether you're playing with 2 players or with 3 or 4, so you just need to look that up. And also you get points based off of the most settlements. Now settlements are interesting. It's different than in Terra Mystica, where it's just based off of the number of connected units, basically. In this game, it's based off of settlements, and settlements are defined as a group of 1 or more units that are directly adjacent to each other. So like these 2 right here, directly adjacent, and you can count towards that bonus settlements that are connected via shipping. So the blue player here, we'll just say that the blue player had 2 shipping, so 2 lock shipping. So that means they can go across river. So this is 1 settlement here. It's this river is between it and this settlement, so that's 2 settlements. You can ship using your 2 shipping over to this settlement, that's 3. You can also ship up to this settlement, 4, 5, and this one here is all just 1 settlement, see, because they're all right next to each other. So blue player would have 5 settlements in this scenario, and that is Clans of Caledonia for you. Thank you for watching.